So you're with me here. Yesterday, you identified some of the key mistakes that might be holding you back from calm, confident parenting. And we're going to let go of those. We're going to move out of parenting from the neck up and doing everything cerebral, even when it's not working. Like Angela and I were talking right at the beginning of this, it's like we can end up using a tool that's super ineffective, and it's like trying to pound a screw in the wall with a hammer, and we're like, why does this not work? Why doesn't he just get it? But it's that we're like asking the wrong questions, we're doing all this talking, and our kids are really wired for cause and effect, for wanting us to help them manage their emotions, for needing us to give them ways to build skills. And so the tools I'm going to give you today, the recipe for encouraging cooperation, completely involves neck down parenting. And also, we're going to stop ping ponging. We're going to stop just grabbing from here and there and this Instagram account and that podcast. And if you're feeling aligned with sustainable parenting and what I'm saying, and this process of CEO being an overarching recipe, this process of doing kind and firm at the same time, instead of like, okay, I'm kind, and then I'm super monster mom, and then I feel bad and I'm kind, if that's aligning, then I would encourage you to stay with me and try out what we're saying today, and then see if you want to dive deeper, we can talk further. So to move forward in your workbook today, it says that we're going to start with 2 key agreements. So with this recipe of how to encourage cooperation, if you're with me in the sustainable parenting method here and what you've heard so far, we got to make 2 key agreements. Those key agreements, first of all, are that we do not negotiate with terrorists. What do I mean by that? So this mistake happens all the time. You've seen other people do it in the grocery store. I watched my brother do it at Thanksgiving over 45 minutes with his daughter. I've been in this place, and I was in the story that I gave you yesterday with Caleb, that we get into talking, negotiating, convincing, threatening, all when we're in the heat of the moment. That's why I say terrorists. Like when they are sort of terrorizing us with their tantrum, with their overwhelm, with their frustration, with their resistance, we are negotiating. We're trying to convince, and that's the least effective time to do it. Does that resonate as true? If it does, would you put something in the comments like yes or an emoji? If this has been true, like, yeah, I try to do all this talking in the heat of the moment because I think that's when I need to, but it doesn't work. Yeah, lots of thumbs up. Alyssa says yes. Cami says yes. So we are going to agree to stop this. Can we all agree together? We are not going to negotiate with terrorists. Let's stop that pattern. And we're going to have a super different, more effective way to give power to the terrorists. Terrorists, we love them. They're our little gems. I'm just kind of saying in that moment. So what are we going to do? We're going to give power to the terrorists because we have a lot of goals. And one goal, the reason that we give power to the terrorists, and we're going to do it in 2 key ways. We're going to give it in the right time, and we're going to give it in the right way. That's on your handout. It says we do not negotiate with terrorists. We're going to give power to the terrorists in the right time and in the right way. What the heck am I talking about? So the reason we are going to give power, this is a very different shift. When we're like trying to explain, trying to threaten, trying to get them to do what we want, it's often that we just want to be in our power position. But the reason I'm going to ask you to give power to the terrorists in the right time, in the right way, is for a few key reasons. Number 1, you want it to work, right? And you are seeing that the other strategy is not working. You trying to be the one that is in control, and they're just going to do it because you said so. How's that been working out? Probably not so good. So we want it to work. That's why we're going to give power. And also we're going to give power to the terrorists because we're in this for the big win, not the quick win, right? You wouldn't be here at a parenting workshop if you weren't in this for the big win of caring about more than just obedience. and treating our kids like they should be a golden retriever. You know, obedience or compliance are some words that I hear out there in parenting advice. And I think that's really missing the boat on the big win, the big picture. I'm not in this just to have an easy, compliant child. I'm in this for the 20-year-old that I want to raise, who's going to be successful as an employee, as a coworker, who's going to be compassionate and supportive and able to hold a good relationship as a friend, as a partner, one day as a parent. This is investment in my future grandchildren, not having their parents end up getting divorced because I've raised a child who doesn't know how to solve problems, or having a kid who's constantly losing their job and I'm stressed about how they're going to support themselves because I didn't teach them how to build the muscles of being able to get through challenges, or doing things that they don't really want to do, or being able to manage their emotions when they're frustrated with a coworker. Right? So I want to pause for just a second and ask, what are your big win goals? What's this really about for you in terms of, we're talking about encouraging cooperation, and I'm going to give you a recipe, but I want to make sure you're with me that we're doing this in a style that is not just about obedience, not just about compliance, because we're in this for bigger goals. What are your bigger goals? Would you write them in the comments right now? Just a few keywords. When you think about your future 20-year-olds, what are like 3 words that come to mind that you want to be true about them? Awesome. Yeah. I see emotional intelligence, empathetic, respectful, compassionate, honest. Yeah. Fantastic. And so to get there, if we want an emotionally intelligent child, we can't just say, do what I say because I said so. You know, stop having that emotion. That's not teaching emotional intelligence. If we're yelling at them or we're doing just all this talking, when do we get to do the teaching about emotional growth, the practice, those skills training? If we want them to be empathetic, we need a style of parenting that gets cooperation, but also involves empathy, that we're willing to stop and hear their point of view. That's a big part, Alex, in giving them power as the terrorist. Alyssa says, successful, happy, kind. Absolutely. And we know a lot of adults who do not feel happy because of shame and blame and all the ways they were told they were wrong in childhood. Ways that they were told, like, why are you so emotional? Or why can't you be different? Why can't you be more like your brother? All those things we talked about yesterday about asking the wrong questions can be really scarring to adult happiness. Yeah. And respectful, says Sierra. Absolutely. So this is a way to guide encouraging cooperation that is respectful. If we want our children to be respectful and we're teaching respect, it happens in the moments, even when we are looking for their cooperation. So let's get to the recipe. Let me get you, how are you going to do this? And what I want to say is that connect you back to the story yesterday of Caleb. And when I was in that place of being super frustrated in the pool, he is losing it. And I just kept lecturing and I kept asking, why are you doing this? And I was ping-ponging between super kind and then monster mom, super kind, monster mom. I switched into asking these 2 key questions. And after asking these questions, then I was able to use the recipe I'm going to give you in just a moment. So the 2 key questions that I promised I would give you, instead of asking why are you doing this, are this. And there is space in your handout to put this right under the area of, we're going to give them power in the right way, in the right time. The first question is, what skills is he lagging? This is the kindness. This is the building them up. What skills is he lagging? And the second key question to ask is, what ways is he being a scientist? What skills is he lagging? What do I mean by that? So our children, we want them to be respectful, responsible, patient, empathetic. And we often are like just seeing moments and saying, why aren't you? All of those things. And yet we're not looking to say, oh, what muscle has my child not built yet? Oh, you haven't built patience. Okay, let's practice patience. Let's talk about it. Let's role play it. Let's, have some examples. And I'm going to praise when I see you doing patience with that word. Oh, that was super patient. Awesome. That's noticing it's a lagging skill. I'm not going to be mad at you that you're a 3-year-old or a 6-year-old that hasn't already just figured this out. I'm going to go, of course, you're only 3. You just landed on the planet 3 years ago or 6 years ago. Of course, you're still growing this muscle. And I'm going to try to see it that way. That puts me in a much more compassionate place. As one of my coaching clients once said, it's like, it makes me teacher, not dictator. I get in the mindset of teacher, and that feels so much more calm. I feel way more confident. Okay, I can be teacher. The second key question is he being a scientist? So that's also knowing that it's, one time I was at a hospital website and it had this big header that said, a child's job is to test rules and boundaries to see what happens when they do. Boy, do our kids clock in for that job like 100% some days, huh? A child's job is to test rules and boundaries, to see what happens when they do. They're scientists. And so sometimes their behaviors are about lagging skills that we can help them build. Sometimes it's about testing boundaries. Does this get me what I want? So going back to the story of Caleb yesterday, he was doing a bit of both. So when I asked these 2 questions, I was like, okay, so he is freaking out at the swim lesson, clawing at my swimsuit, screaming in my ear, not letting me go. I am going to do the teaching, give him the power in the right time, in the right way, because I have an answer on these 2 questions. I think he is lagging the skill of understanding how to manage this new situation. I knew he was kind of a slow to warm up child. And of course, just like I felt the beating eyes of the 40 other kids around the pool and the adults, I think that was overwhelming him too. And then on the other side, I realized I think he was testing the boundary of, will screaming and clinging make mom stay here in the pool with me? And guess what? His experiment proved very true. The more he did that, the more I stayed in the pool, and it reinforced the behavior that I was so frustrated with. Pause for just a second and think about that. If you saw the video that I posted of doing some coaching with Rachel, you saw this aha moment for her too, where she said, oh my gosh, when I think about it, like they're begging and pleading and whining and crying, and that makes me stay super present with them at bedtime, stay longer. I'm there till 9:30 or 10. So it's like I'm training them that behavior that's driving me nuts works. Okay. And then we talked through, well, the good news about that is that means that you have just as much power to teach them to respond to what your boundaries are going to be and to work within that. So let's stop creating our own problem and find ways to set the boundary. They're being scientists, so okay, it's our job to give them a clear answer to their science experiments of where the boundary is and what's going to happen. I know you might be thinking, okay, how do I do this though, Flora? So I'm going to give you a very clear recipe here. So with Caleb, I went to him and I said, let's do this, honey. I made an agreement in advance. So this is next on your handout. This is the recipe. I made an agreement in advance so that I wasn't trying to negotiate with him in the heat of the struggle. Like, okay, let's do this consequence or this temptation. Honey, can't you just take breaths? I was like, outside of the moment, here's the deal, Caleb. I know this is hard. Let's talk about how we can feel more comfortable in the pool. How about let's make a plan that I'm going to give you a kiss on the hand, and that way you have mommy's love with you the whole time. If you need it during the class, you can put it on your heart or on your cheek. I am not going to get in the pool. I want to be very clear about that with you today. And if you're sad, I talked to the teacher, you can sit on the edge of the pool and wait till you feel comfortable to get in. Okay, that's our plan. The second piece, as you see in your handout, is I used a when then. So I didn't just make the plan, I also tied ownership. I call that 2 roads in my CEO model. That's one of the facets of ownership. They're about 10 skills. So I said, honey, here's the deal. When you are able to stay in the pool and enjoy this time, then you're going to get to play, you're going to have fun. When you don't, you're just going to sit on the edge, and you can be sad as long as you need to. It's totally up to you. Okay. So I was just very clear with him about what the options were. And I think we said something like, and when we have done a good job of staying in the lesson for all of our days, we'll go and get McDonald's. So I set that up ahead of time. So I made an agreement in advance. I tied a when then. And then I used something that I see a lot of parents not utilizing, which is teach, practice, praise. This is the 3rd line in your workbook. Teach, practice, praise. So I'm not just going to explain to him how to be more calm, how to get through the class without me. We practiced it. We role played a little bit. We sat on the edge of the stairs, pretending it was the edge of the pool. We worked through it. And then I was able to give him praise, like just in the practice of the moment. Yeah, look how fun that will be. That'll feel so good. Look at what a big boy you are, getting through your class and having a wonderful time. Awesome. So I taught it, and then we practiced it. And then I can praise it both in that role play. And then for sure, one of the most positive behavior change tools is that then when he did a good job in the class, I want to give that a lot of attention. And something I like to teach on that is like an 80-20 flip. A lot of times we're like, oh, that was cool, bud. And then when they don't do good, we're like, are you kidding me? I can't believe you did that again. That's so rude. That's disrespectful. That's not nice. 80%, like we're giving like a big emotion to the negative and small emotion to the positive. So I try to flip flop that. And I'm like, oh, that was sad. And then we're going to follow through. We're not having McDonald's. I'm just walking to the car. And then when it's good, I'm like, whoa, are you like 5 already? That was incredible. That was awesome. Yes. So teach, practice, praise. Now I'm going to lay this out for you of an example of how you could use this with technology challenges, like getting the TV or your iPad turned off, with bedtimes, and with getting out the door. First, I just want to know, is any of this, what's popping up to you right now that you're like, oh my gosh, hadn't thought about adding that piece to how to encourage cooperation? So I see making agreements beforehand has worked, but I haven't used that tool consistently. Yeah, it's one of the biggest ones. Like I was just on a coaching call with Anjali, a mom of a 9-year-old, saying to me, I really notice, especially the more in advance I can give those expectations, it really helps the moment go so much better. We can't always do that, but we can pause and at least explain our agreement in advance right before super putting out there a consequence. Like instead of just throwing out, that's it, you're losing your birthday party, I could like pause and be like, listen, you have one last chance, this road, that road. And again, I'll give you an example in just a minute in advance, really helps. Making less of a big deal about the bad and making a big deal of the good is what Alex says stands out. Awesome. Yes. Let me tell you, my mom was a single mom of 3 kids. I'm the youngest. She became a single mom when I was 1. So she had a 1, 3, and 4-year-old. Amazes me. And this is one of her best tips that she said to me was, you want to make the best bang for your buck, Flora. You don't have time to spend, you're low on energy. The best place to spend your energy is on praising the positive, however small it is. If you want a deeper look into that, I have a master class where I do talk through that 4 days, and that's like a huge piece of the material for the first day of it. You can write master class if you want me to send the link to that. Best bang for your buck is the positive. Yeah. And Samantha says, miss the 2 lines of the recipe for success on the handout. What are those? Make an agreement in advance and use when then. And you can catch the replay to hear that again, Samantha. So let's talk through some examples on this. So let's say it's tech time and you've been frustrated with their not cooperating when it's time to turn off the iPad or time to give you back your phone. They've been using an app or something. Here's what that looks like. Agree in advance on the rule. Many parents will tell me it's so frustrating, they won't just give it back. And I'm like, well, what's your agreement about tech? I don't know. I give it to them when I need a moment to myself. Then they're supposed to give it back. How would that be if your boss just gave you money whenever they felt like it? Like, I think I'm going to give you $500 today. Another day, I only feel like giving you $100 for an hour or whatever. You would get pissed on the days where you only get it 100, or you don't have a lack of feeling some ownership and connection and control that your behavior determines that thing. So that's where you get a lot of upset. So make an agreement in advance. We're going to watch one show. It's going to be in the morning. And when you turn it off nice, then you get that again the next morning or afternoon. When you don't, we're not going to have our show tomorrow. Or you get one app while we, sometime during the day. And when you turn it off nicely, then you get that privilege again tomorrow. When you don't, then you don't. That's my agreement in advance, tied to a when then. And then let's teach it. Let's practice it. Let's role play a few times. Okay, the show is almost off. It's 1 minute left. And then I look at you and I say, Jason, time to turn it off. Let's watch. Oh, you did so good. Yeah, I just give mom a high five. Let's go find the next thing to do. Then you'll get to have tech again tomorrow. That'll be great for you, won't it? That's how we use the combination. Another example would be bedtime. I like to recommend something I call 4 touches. If you have been having a hard time with your kids staying in bed, think about that. Are they being a scientist? They may be seeing that it works when they whine and cry and ask for one more thing, that you stay there. So make an agreement in advance. Honey, I'm going to come check on you 4 times. You have to be in bed for me to come back, and I'm going to give you one more little rub on the back, maybe one song, and then I'll come check on you again. If you get out of bed, if you leave your room, you lose one of those 4 checks. That'll be a bummer. And if you lose all of them and you haven't fallen asleep yet, then you're not going to have your morning cartoon. Make that agreement in advance. And then in terms of the checks, I do it like I come back in 1 minute, come back in 3 minutes, come back in 5 minutes, come back in 10 minutes. And then outside of the moment, let's teach, let's practice, let's praise, let's solve any problem that we need to. Do we need a little lovey that has mom's shirt on it so they can snuggle into it and smell mom instead of you having to sit there? Do we need to have a little quarter cup filled sippy cup next to their bed so they don't have to get out of bed? Do we want to put a little froggy potty next to the bed so if they have to go, they don't have to go out into the dark, into the bathroom if that's what's scaring them? Solve the problems outside of the moment. Give them the power in the right time, in the right way. And then in the moment, you have your when then to follow through on. Third example is getting out the door. One of my mentors in parent coaching had this great rule that said, as soon as I say shoes on, coat on, out the door, anything that gets touched is going away for the rest of the week. So just a very clear when then. And on the opposite side, you could say something like, when we're ready, quick and snappy, and we have time, you can grab a toy to bring in the car with us. From maybe like from a basket right next to the shoes, so you don't have an additional problem of running around the house trying to find the such and such. Make it sustainable. I'm always asking parents like, okay, well, that's a good plan. Is that sustainable? Is that really realistic? So then you can practice. Let's practice what we need in order to be able to get out the door. You know, what are there any obstacles of what we need to make this go easier? And then when we're doing it quick and snappy, then we get that toy. If they're not cooperating, I can just remind them of the when then. Oh, remember, honey, when you turn this off nicely, then you get to have tech again tomorrow. Oh, honey, remember, when you are ready, quick and snappy on time, you get to take a toy in the car. So that's how this recipe really, really works super effectively. And this is a process that I find repeatable along with many other key recipes that I have in my CEO model. This is just one. Don't imagine it's going to work for every situation. It's not going to manage everything, but there is a recipe I have for virtually every situation, and it's within the CEO model. And my program, and we'll talk more about that. But if you've been curious about this and you're like, I think I'm getting in a place where I'm curious, what does it look like to have more parent coaching? You can check it out on your own at sustainableparenting.com/mentor. And I love to do this with other parents it's a group setting because, you know, frankly, I could do this coaching one-on-one and say, I promise it works. It really does. And then have people individually trying to grow and they're not really growing, but we do it in a group because I know it works. And I love having people see how it works with each other, solve problems together, throw out examples together, and just exponentially grow their growth and make it be so much faster when they're in a group doing it together. So if that's something you're curious about, you're looking for a space to get these results more quickly and more fun, let's talk about that, or you can check it out at the website. So your homework today is to try out what I've given you today. I want you to pick a situation in your life and use this recipe of making an agreement in advance. And I know some of you have really young kids, even 1-year-olds. You can do this, even though they can't verbalize back to you. Keep your words short and simple. You can make a plan in advance and use a when then, and then teach, practice, praise. And I want you to message me, Flora, what I noticed when I tried this is ... If that's a success, yay, I'll be happy to celebrate with you. If that's a struggle that didn't quite go well, then I'll help you fine tune it and maybe send you some bonus material to help it really be effective. Thanks for being here. Tomorrow we'll talk about the best question to ask to end the daily battles. And you won't want to miss that because we're going to be talking about how to really make this change super solid in more ways than just one situation. Talk soon. Bye now.